Olubunmi Oluwadare, our first guest, says that fixing all the major problems facing Nigeria is not a Herculean task. Neither is it rocket science. It can be done only if the government allows deliberately stimulated entrepreneurial interventions. Well, this and many more points were stated in his open letter to the President, Muhammadu Buhari, and the 36 state governors. And he's here in our studio to tell us why. Welcome to the morning show, Olubunmi Oluwadare.
For having me this morning. Thank you.
Good. Well, in some quarters, entrepreneurship is seen to have gone beyond just starting and owning a business to a mindset, a way of thinking and acting to solve problems, create values, innovate, and take risks. What's your sense of the impact of this set of people on our policy development and our economy?
Yeah, thank you very much once again for having me. Having looked at the situation we find ourselves in Africa, most especially in Nigeria, over the decades, we have tried different kind of approach to solve our problems. But it's got to a time now that we know the problem can only be solved by what we call entrepreneurial intervention. What do I mean by entrepreneurial intervention? Most of the challenges facing us in Nigeria can be solved by entrepreneurs. They have the know-how, they have the capacity to make it happen. We have seen it happening in other parts of the world. So what we are saying is now, we have identified those problems. We have the solution to all those problems, and it's not far-fetched. What is going on in our refinery sector have even pointed to that direction. We can see what the Aliko Dangote is doing in the refinery sectors. When government was failed for so many years, they couldn't even put it together. So other sectors, from housing, from every other sectors that we are having the challenges, we believe that we can apply entrepreneurship intervention to solve all this problem. It's not even about government budgeting. It's about us see the problem and provide solution to them. And that's what it's all about. It's not a rocket science. It's just to apply the round peg in a round hole to solve this problem. And that's what we are saying. And the time is now.
Olubunmi, how different is what you're proposing? How different is that from what we have now? Are you saying that the government doesn't reach out to experts in certain industries for guidance in terms of policy? Or are you saying that what you would propose would be something completely different? I'm not sure that what you're proposing would be much different from what is currently the state of politics today. What do you say about that?
There is totally different to what we are proposing. We have seen, I myself as an entrepreneur, we have seen a lot of lapses. We have seen a lot of fails, projects, from government. What we are saying is that we have identified all these challenges. We know them. They even know that we know this problem. So what we're saying is that let us, apply entrepreneurial intervention into solving all these problems. Mention any problem that we are facing today that we cannot solve. Is it housing project? Is it road construction? Is the health sector? Every of these sectors, there are entrepreneurs out there that they are ready to provide solutions to all those problems.
Let's look at housing, for example. We know that there's a huge shortage of housing across the country. But if we focus on Lagos State, if you say that that is a problem that you have identified, how do you propose to solve the lack of housing in Lagos State, for example?
Let me give you the housing in Lagos. The major challenges we have in housing in Lagos is high cost of the housing. What we call a low-cost housing is a solution that entrepreneur can identify a location and provide affordable housing, into all those. We're talking, let's give a sample of the outskirts of Lagos. Let's say Ekpe. If you want to do something in the Ekpe, outskirts of Lagos as an entrepreneur, we are creating an housing that can, accommodate the low cadre, the middle cadre, and the high cadre. It's not now what we are focusing on is the high cadre. The minimum house you can buy in Lagos is about 25 to 30 million naira. A low cadre, person cannot afford that. But we can do a low housing cadre, and we can structure in such a way that such people can pay for a period of time, by partnering with banks and insurance companies to make it happen. And we can use the local product to make it happen. Those are the things we can apply so that people, and you cannot even create an accommodation of people without an opportunity around the place. If you're asking people to go to outskirts of Lagos, there must be an opportunity for them to be engaged. So it's totally different that where you are developing an housing for people and people cannot afford it. That's what we're saying.
All right. It said that talk is easy. I want to continue on that line of thought. Talk is easy.
Yes.
But acting it out is a different thing. It looks like I'm going to come to power sometime later in the program. But on this housing, really break it down. You've talked about the fact that the house cost about 30 million, you said, or something. You want people to be able to pay, I think you said, little by little.
Yeah.
Break it down. I mean, you have the opportunity here right now on Arise News to begin to get across to government what you want to do, or what you want them to do, or how it can be done. So break it down to the barest minimum in housing, like she asked. How would you want it to be with the time allotted, step by step? Starting from the foundation, building it, getting people either loans or what was done during the first act time, or just break it down.
What we're saying is that the number one thing to build an house is land.
Good.
Where you have the land, you look at the material you're going to use to build this, to put the house together. And there are so many different materials. We have clay, we have prefab, we have so many materials you can use to build all this. And we have a local manpower to make it happen. And not just building a house, you are building a sustainable housing project that we can have a solar on top of them. Meaning that if I give you accommodation, you don't need energy anymore. So what we are saying is that governments just need to put infrastructure in place, create a road that will link all those locations, segment the housing, let's have different kind of segments. If there is a good transportation from Lagos, from the city to outskirts of Lagos, people will move. Entrepreneur will create a housing that people can, they can afford. So I've said it, the material is very crucial. The manpower is there, to put all these things together. And we have a lot of local material. We have the sand, we have a lot of things. We have the sun to make the house sustainable in terms of energy. So what we are saying is that the enabling environment and a good policy to make it happen is what we're calling government to do. Yeah?
Now you've talked about policy. That's where I want to go now. What sort of business-oriented policies would you urge government at all levels to continue to initiate, to encourage innovation and problem solving? Like I said, that's the forte of entrepreneurs.
Yeah, what we know right away from time is that government knows their business. Government should face their business. The government business is to create a policy that will attract investors, that will make entrepreneurship to thrive. What we are saying is that once we identify all those problems, that we know we have a solution to provide, government should back it up with a good policy. The law should be strong. We have seen a lot of things in the past that a lot of investors come to Nigeria to put a lot of things together. But just one government policy will bring it down. So this scare investors away. Our law should be very strong. And there should be a direction, there should be a protection for all the investment and entrepreneur idea to thrive. We see what is going on all over the world. A lot of people don't want to come to Nigeria because of these challenges. So those are the challenges. What we are saying is that government just provides, enabling environment for us to thrive as an entrepreneur. And that's what we're saying.
I understand. Well, Olubunmi, I think where we need to start from, I think, is understanding how successful you've been so far in reaching the government. I know that you've written this open letter to government for as many people to be able to hear your plans. And how has that been received so far? Have you had any type of feedback from these people you want to help?
Yeah, let me, because as my position as the national head of African Young Entrepreneurs, we have several interfaces with the government. And quite sincere, most of the government authority, most especially the government, we have interface with as an organization. They have really shown an interest in what we are doing. Having practicalized, to show them the direction of what entrepreneurial intervention is all about. Let me give you a practical example of the governor of Ondo State, Arakuni Akeredolu. We have interface with him. And when he listened to us and he saw, our direction, as we are talking now, we have entrepreneurial village in Ondo State in Akure that is going to take off very shortly. It's just like a Silicon Valley of Africa, where innovation can thrive, and those are what we are calling for. Most of the time, it's not even about the money from the government. It's about just creating an enabling environment, for us to thrive.
On a very short pause just there. We're about to take a very short break, and when we come back, we'll continue discussing Olubunmi Oluwadare's ideas on how entrepreneurial spirit can make a better Nigeria. Please do stay with us. Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. We're still talking to Olubunmi Oluwadare, who has written an open letter to the presidency, to government, to highlight his issues on how he thinks galvanizing entrepreneurial spirit will help and make for a better Nigeria. Before we went on to the break there, Olubunmi, you were talking to us about how successful your letter or your efforts have been so far. Please do continue on that point.
Yeah. So what we're saying is that let me just break it down to, a layman language. What we're saying is that we have identified all the challenges facing us as a nation, from state to local government. We know all this problem. And one thing that is very important is that when you identify the problem, the solution is lie waiting. The solution to this problem lies in the hand of entrepreneurs. We know. The problem is segmented into different sectors and different capacity. If, for example, Lagos State government give my company an avenue to provide a bus stop to entire Lagos, I can do that. There are so many entrepreneurs that can provide healthcare services. There are so many entrepreneurs that can do a road construction. There are so many entrepreneurs that can do a manufacturing. There are so many entrepreneurs that can provide the devices on security. So every peculiar challenges we are facing as a nation, have a solution lies in the hand of entrepreneurs. So what we are telling the government is that give us an opportunity to solve this problem for you, because we have waited for a long time. Year upon year budgets, huge budgets. We are not talking about budget now. We are talking about solution. Is it a transportation you are talking about that an entrepreneur cannot solve? We all see what is going on in the world today. During the pandemic, the only thing working now in terms of communication is Zoom. It's communication. Everybody is using it.
Olubunmi, you mentioned that at this point, it's not about budgeting or budgets. It's about solutions. But in order to achieve those solutions, these things cost money. And budgeting is always going to be a restraint on the ability one has to solve any type of infrastructural problem. So again, when you say it's not about budget, how can that be possible when you do need those funds to solve these problems?
It's very possible. You can see what is going on in Dangote refinery. We have about 3 refineries in the past. They have been budgeting on it, putting money on it, and it's not working until it's go moribund. But the same refinery is going on in Ibejuleki, and money is going to there. Why? Because it's coming from the private sector pocket. And an entrepreneur will never make his business to fail. Even if it's fail, it's going to bring it back to life. So what we are saying is that when we keep budgeting money into a certain sector and it's not working, so why is it not working? Yeah, that's the question we should ask ourselves.
Olubunmi, let me take you back to your letter where you said that you're appealing to the federal and state governments to allow, I'm choosing your words, deliberately stimulated entrepreneurial interventions. I am looking at what you actually have in mind. Mind you that nothing, absolutely nothing comes to you on a platter of diamond. What have you done? I have had somebody discuss about business, and he was giving an advice. Why don't you work something out, take it to the government, something tangible to show them that this is what you can do. This is what you have done in this area. They can come and look at it. So it's not just writing a letter or talking. What do you have in mind? What have you done, really? Have you done tangible things?
Personal thing. I have my own experience. About 2 years ago, I brought an idea of a solar power tricycle to Nigeria that we can assemble this product in Nigeria. And, I, sent a proposal to the Federal Ministry of Transportation, and they called me for a presentation in Abuja. And I showed them the plan for this solar power tricycle. Not only tricycle, 4-wheel vehicles and any other vehicles for utility. They love the idea because it's not going to be powered by gasoline. It's going to be a solar-powered. Brilliant idea that we can sell in Nigeria. And as I'm talking to you, I have the prototype in the office. We have done everything, including the setting up the assembly plant, the assembly plant in Nigeria. But since that till now is going front and back.
Yeah, you know that.
So you can see what we're talking about. And nearly every entrepreneur that I've interfaced with are complaining about this one. I'm not asking them to give me money.
Good.
I'm just asking them create enabling environments that make things seem to work. And we have done a lot of things. The records are there. And it's not only me, so many entrepreneurs, you know, as a national head of African Young Entrepreneur, I have interfaced with a lot of entrepreneurs. Pandemic is going around now. You can see a lot of entrepreneurs bringing a lot of things out. How many of it has been accepted by government? Most of the time, it's not even about money. It's about you saying, this product, we like it, we're going to patronize you. And that's why it's going on in Madagascar and every other part of the world.
Well, when you say how many of it have been accepted by government,
yeah.
I don't know whether you're being particularly fair. We can talk about COVID, what they're doing. And then, of course, you talked about Dangote. And there are quite a lot of them. What can encourage you, what you said? I mean, I hope you haven't stopped trying, because sometimes some things take time to birth. So I hope you haven't stopped trying. Let's look at the issue of ease of doing business in Nigeria. Nigeria has moved to 15 places, improving in 8 indicators from its 2019 position, and has been tagged as one of the most improved economies in the world for running a business. This can be found on the World Bank's Doing Business 2020 Index. I'm talking about the fact that if you say government are not doing the right policies, this seems to counteract that argument, Olubunmi.
Well, sometimes we look at figures. We look at what we see in the pages of newspaper. But down the line to the entrepreneur where we have interface with, we are missing something out. When we're talking about economy, economy is like you want a gas to bring out fire. And you have the gas, but there's no matches to light up the gas. There's no way the fire will come. We are not saying government is not trying. Okay. But what we are saying is that they need to do more than this. And we need to go beyond the newspaper publication or the figures. We are talking about the reality on the ground. We don't have power. Without power, no entrepreneurship can thrive. So if there is no power and you made the use of this doing business to be in place, the NAFDAC, we see what they are doing brilliantly. But what we are saying is that the nitty-gritty that make it happen, the finance, the power, those are the 2 major things. If those things are not there, there is no way entrepreneurship can thrive. And we're talking about the marketing. If I produce a vehicle in Nigeria today, it's going to buy it from my hand. We'd rather go and patronize the foreign products than that to patronize our own. So what we're saying is that let the major thing be focused on power. Any nation without power cannot thrive in any entrepreneurship. You can look at farmers. 70% of the products are roasted in the farm. There's no transportation to take them. There's no preservation. So what we are talking about, when we are taking our eyes away from what is fundamental, we're going to have the same problem. That's why a lot of things are not working, even despite the fact government are trying to put a lot of things in place. But we're talking about the power. Any nation, go and check it around the world that doesn't have power. How do you want to thrive in such nation? So what we're saying is that let us have off-grid power. Imagine Lagos State have their own power, Ekiti State have their own power, and you allow solar panels to be coming to Nigeria, even produced in Nigeria at low interest rates, even 0% interest. We're going to have power. Everybody will have their own power. After all, we have our own generator that we are running our own house. So what we're saying is that all ease of doing business, perfect idea, good one, but let it get back to the real focus, which is power and finance. If you give me money today and I have power, I don't need government. Just give your policy. I will do my business. No. And I will thrive.
I thought you made an interesting point there, Olubunmi, when you talked about, despite Nigeria making progress on the ease of doing business scale, we're actually at 131 out of 190 countries, and that is an improvement, as Indy said, of around 15 places on the year before. But you said, in as much as we can acknowledge those improvement in numbers, that's not always reflective of the reality on the ground. And you've also spoken at length about government needing to create an enabling environment. What would that look like in your most ideal imagination? What would an enabling environment in Nigeria look like that would be conducive to entrepreneurial spirit growing?
Number one, to create an enabling environment is very simple. We have an industrial city. Let's give an example. There is an industrial city along Ibadan Express Road. There is power there. There is arrangement for buyback strategy that whatever I'm producing is going to get to the market. There is transportation. The government policy concerning funding is open and transparent. We have a lot of money flying on in the paper, but none of it get to the hand of SMEs or entrepreneurs. So what we are talking about is beyond paper. We are talking about practical things. How do you make me to survive in an economy where I don't have power? When to get, things passed through the government documentation takes me 2 years. How am I going to thrive in that economy? When there's no security of life and property in place, there's going to be a problem. When policies change every time, new government, new policy. Those are what we're talking about. They are simple things. To create an enabling environment for me, let be a security in place.
I don't know whether I have the time to chip in this question. Beautiful. This is very key, and you mentioned that the question of money, capital, which is one of the challenges of entrepreneurs. The central bank is doing quite a lot here. It's circulated July 3, 2019, mandated all deposit money banks, that's the DMBs, to maintain a minimum loan deposit ratio of 60% by September 2019 to improve the real sector.
That's even increased up from
okay, good.
60%.
Yeah. Good, beautiful. Lending and financial institutions. That definitely is an environment that the CBN is creating for you to plug into and do what you have to do.
Brilliant. As myself, I have my own company. I'm an entrepreneur, and I apply for a loan at the bank every time.
Good.
I'm not going to be here to blame bank at all, because bank too, they are looking at how their money is going to come back. So how many people have access to this loan in terms of figure in Nigeria? I don't want us to come here and talk about something. I said it earlier that we're talking about the paper, but practical thing, how many entrepreneurs have access to this fund? That's the major thing. Let entrepreneurs that have access to this money come out in the pages of newspaper and say, oh, I've approached bank ABCD to give me a loan of 1 million naira to improve my business.
In 10 seconds, what would you want them to do so they can get access, like you're saying?
What we need them to do is to partner with entrepreneurs, not just to give us money, to go into the business, to be part of the business. To see, you can't just give money to, A without know what A is doing. I'll be part of the business. Sometimes I might not need the cash, I might need the machine. Give me money for the machine, even pay for the machine.
I thought they were doing it in some quarters.
All right, but I think that's a great place to end rather. Olubunmi Oluwadare, thank you very much for your time. That is Olubunmi Oluwadare, who is the National Head of Africa's Young Entrepreneurs. Thank you very much for your time.